This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Good evening, everyone. We are going to call to order our regular session meeting of the Easthampton School Committee. Today is July 22nd. I don't know why I need to add that. We're going to roll call in. Eric?
Here.
Megan? Here. Laura? Present. And our interim mayor, Salem Derby?
Present.
Thank you so much. We're also joined by our new superintendent, Dr. Michelle Bosch, and joined remotely by our policy chair, Sam Hunter. Thanks, Sam. Perfect. Okay, great. So we are going to move on to announcements. And do you have any correspondence, Megan?
I don't have any correspondence to report.
Okay.
And we do have a gift, which was a donation of plants for the graduation stage at the high school from Shield Farm. And if I am correct me, but I believe we've received this donation many years.
I believe we're at the 27-year-ish mark.
That sounds about right. So we are eternally grateful. 27 years. Grateful.
I've been told that they specifically farm maroon and white flowers. I mean, white is no big deal, but they specifically farm maroon flowers for that ceremony every year, which is lovely. Shield Farm, everybody, in Southampton, over by the pond.
So it's really meaningful that they continue to do this, and we're going to make a motion and approve this gift. And I just don't want it to go unnoticed. Like this, I mean, we just
every year, no cost, and it's beautiful what they do.
It really was beautiful.
Okay, so entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the donation of plants for EHS graduation stage from Shield Farm.
You have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Eric. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We always have on our agenda the student representative update. Sadly, we do give the students the summer off, so we will again have it on our agenda, I'm sure, next month, but we will hopefully be hearing from students in September. I believe that'll be Walter Baker, who is the student council president at Easthampton High School, and they will be selecting a student to represent Mountain View that we will be joined by in either September or October. So we really look forward to hearing word on the street at our beautiful schools beginning this fall. We are going to move to public comment. If anyone joining us in person or remotely has thoughts they would like to share, we would invite you in person to come to the podium, state your name and address. And anyone remotely, you can raise your virtual hand. We'll give that a couple of minutes. Mr. Woodbury. So many public speaks. Not a soul. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Go ahead and give us your name, and feel free to tip that microphone down so the public can hear you clearly.
Okay, Robert Ferrier, 4 Prospect Street, also the mayoral candidate, please. Okay, basically I've got one question that's on my mind. And it goes to school of choice. And I guess the question being is, now, I was going through the budget presentation, which 2 thumbs up.
Right there. That is our Director of Business Services.
Probably one of the best presentations I've seen. I guess the question I do have is with the school of choice, the out-of-district tuition increased by 3.67%, and I was looking at the number of $455,000. I guess my question would be, if my numbers are correct, is there actually 87 students in this district that are using school of choice?
I'm going to interject briefly to say that we can't respond to you directly during public speak.
Okay.
But we can answer some of these questions during our finance portion, and I can follow up with you privately for anything else. So we're not trying to ignore you, but we're a little bit restricted and able to respond to you directly.
Okay, that's fine.
So every question you have, lobby them at us. We're taking notes, and we're going to follow up.
Okay, that's basically my biggest question is that number that when I did do it, based upon the increase, came out to 87 and a half students. Obviously, we know there's no half student. But the numbers just, it makes me seem like that's awfully high of amount of students in this district that want to go elsewhere because we don't have the, I don't know, I can understand vocational, but other than that, we supply a lot of other things that a lot of school districts don't. And I guess it's just one of those things that's just making my head spin that I can't wrap my head around. So that's what I've got for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to reach out to you privately. Can I give you a sheet of paper? You can write down your contact information. I'm going to follow up with you. And if we don't have any other public speak, then we are going to move on to our business update in just a second. Oh, here we go. Do you have a pen? Because I have one here.
Yep.
And I'll give you my cell phone number as well.
Okay.
Our Director of Business Services, Julia Franks, is here to offer our finance and personnel updates. Good evening, Ms. Franks.
Hello. First item on the report is the end of fiscal year 25. We are currently working on closing the books. As always, we're waiting on some of the technical things on the back end, right, to close out all of the accounts. But the necessary transfers and reclassifications to balance the budget have already been done and processed. The city did approve our supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $300,000. These funds were used to address the unanticipated special education expenses that we have been discussing for the past several months. The school department budget did end the year in a deficit, which is not a surprise. It's something that we've been talking about. That deficit was addressed by the combination of that supplemental appropriation plus additional funds that we pulled from circuit breaker and school choice. I will provide more detailed information to the finance committee first and then the full school committee when I have all the I's dotted, T's crossed, and can give you exact dollar amounts. So that information will be forthcoming at an upcoming school committee meeting. The summer food program is off and running. This year we expanded that program to be at both Mountain View and at the high school. As of the first week, they had served 250 meals in that program. As of the last data set that I got, that was last Thursday, over 1,100 meals have been served so far by that summer food program.
And that's been sometimes our annual total.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes.
That's so excellent. I just get chills. That's excellent, excellent, excellent.
Yep.
Great.
So I will continue to provide the committee with updates on that as the summer food service program continues. In the packet is the personnel report for the month of June. On here, the only new hire that is listed on there is actually Timothy St. John, our new school committee member. Typically, we don't hire new staff, right, when there's only half a dozen school days left in the month of June. This year, I think we had 11 school days. There are a lot of separations that are listed on there. So retirements, people that chose to leave as of the end of the school year. I do not have vacancies listed because a lot of those positions will be filled over the summer. So probably in the September meeting, I will give you guys a full update in the August report because there's sort of a moving target right now as we hire and as people announce resignations and we fill positions. So I will be giving you guys a fuller update on our staffing at the September school committee meeting.
Julie, can I ask, do you,
Yep.
and maybe Dr. Walsh can address this too, can you give us, or maybe it's a bit premature, maybe this is better in August, give us a sense of how we're feeling about staffing? Was this what we were anticipating? Just a general vibe check of how that's going, looking for September.
I would say a lot of these positions have been filled already. Most of the teaching positions, we either have interviews scheduled, we have candidates lined up, we're waiting to hear if people have accepted offers. So I think there's only a couple of teaching positions that are unfilled. I know that they've been doing ongoing interviews at MVS for paraprofessional positions. So I haven't heard anybody panic with me.
Great.
But I haven't actually talked to Jill or Bill and gotten a vibe check from them.
Yeah.
But my
this
impression,
is a pretty typical turnover every summer.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Anything to add?
No, I think the paraprofessional positions, if anybody's interested, please apply.
Yeah.
We're looking for a couple of those positions.
What are the
at
minimum
MVS.
requirements for a paraprofessional in this district?
You can take a work keys exam and you can have associates or some college credits. I don't know how many college credits, but you can also take the work keys exam to get the appropriate certification.
So if you only have a high school diploma, you
Yes.
could take that exam.
Yes.
And that would be a stand-in. Great, good to know. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have questions about personnel or finance? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Sam
Sam,
has
of
his
course.
hand up.
I heard your little blue. Go right ahead.
I was just wondering with the, I'm really excited to hear about the numbers for the summer lunch program or the summer field program. And I was just wondering, is that, has that been made available to like the students who are there for extended school year or for other programs that happen to be in the buildings?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of the students that are participating in the program are either for champions or they're for other programming, but we have had other families participate.
Great.
Yep.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, Jean Libby has done a great job promoting it as well.
It's really good.
Yep.
It's really good. All right, we're going to move on to the superintendent update. Thank you very much.
Little one pager.
There we go.
So I plan on doing this every school committee meeting, just providing a brief update on where we are. I'll start each of the meetings, my portion, with the superintendent goals and an update on how we're making progress towards those goals. So I plan on presenting a draft of my goals October 7th school committee meeting for approval at the subsequent October 21st, because typically goals are done in November, so you have time to make progress and do that sort of mid-cycle check for a formative. So I'm hoping to get those in front of you. I'm also working with my NISIP coach on creating an entry plan. I did one for my interview, but just getting a sense of where the district is and the information I'm gathering. I'm going to revise that entry plan, make it very concise with all the data I've collected so far. And as I continue to do my listening sessions, present that entry plan to you. He's also going to join us on that September 9th meeting to introduce himself, so you can get a sense of the program that I'm going through and the work that we're doing in that cohort.
And this person that you're referring to is your mentor that's assigned because you're a first-year superintendent?
Correct.
Right.
So it's part of a 3-year induction program. I have Dr. Kenneth Salim as my mentor, and we were just at the Cape, spent a full day with all of the new superintendents and other superintendents from across the state in professional development. So that was a great opportunity. I posted a welcome video, just sort of, I wanted everybody to see my face and to hear a little bit from me. But that's just one small step in the work that we're going to do together, and just getting everybody sort of who is our new superintendent. And I am going to be doing some listening sessions. It's very important to me that the community has an opportunity to chat with me, staff members, community members, students as well. Just really, I really want to hear from people about their experiences and really what their hopes and dreams are for students in this district, and what we're doing well and where we can improve. So I've launched, I'm going to be, these will be posted on social media. We'll be sending them out through Parent Square, a series of sessions. The first series I'll do at 50 Payson, but I plan on going to Nonotuck and Tandem and making myself available, individual conversations as well, just as a part of a way to introduce myself to everybody. So we'll launch these dates. We'll get the dates out to everyone. First one is September 10th. We're going to do some in the evening. I have a weekend one scheduled as well. So hoping everybody can come out and just share their experiences and tell me all of the great things and the areas of opportunity for us as a district. And then, as those conversations sort of evolve, I plan on doing sort of a data and document review and looking at policies, our old strategic plan, our DESE data, other sort of assessment data, looking at our handbook, and just getting a really comprehensive sense of the district and what we need to update and what really are going to be our priorities, because that work is all going to drive our strategic plan. And that's going to be a big part of the work that we do over the next year, is developing a strategic plan. And I really feel like a strategic plan shouldn't just span 1 year. You'll have goals and benchmarks within that strategic plan, but it should be, a 5-year plan because it does take a while. And small incremental change is really what we're hoping for, because you have to create the systems and structures if you really want change to take root. So,
which we kind of just started that adjustment with the SIP, right? With the school improvement plan, we extended that. That was typically an annual change, and now we have given that 2 years. So it actually is time to breathe and become successful.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's just a little bit about those meetings, the work that I'm going to be doing, but you'll receive a more comprehensive sort of entry plan September 9th.
Wonderful. Does anybody have questions for Dr. Bush? Sam? Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I just had one comment, which is I heard a lot of really good feedback about that video. So
yes.
I really appreciate you putting that together and getting that out there so quickly. And I think folks really appreciate that. And I wanted to let you know.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's good feedback.
Actually, do have a comment?
Tim, go ahead.
I was really heartened to see the AI focus and us looking towards like that direction. And as far as like improvements that we need to make and all of that, it just seemed like a stark contrast to the kind of boilerplate things that have been going on or that we kind of used to help us move through. The introduction of the whole AI experience was really, like, I thought very forward thinking, and I was really impressed with that. So
Great. Yeah, so what Tim is referring to, we're going to unleash to the public at large in just a short time, where we're going to have the first reading of a policy proposal for a district policy revolving around AI, which be lengthy, but we are going to slog through it together because it's a complicated subject.
yeah, that's one we have no choice really, but to kind of build a policy around, at least to start.
Well stated.
Well stated.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yeah, Megan.
Sam beat me to it, but I also just wanted to say that I received so much feedback from people who couldn't quite believe, we're sort of like checking in, like she actually would like to hear from us. Like she wants me to go talk to her. So it just is another, I was like, yes, that's what she made in the video.
I really mean it.
So they're hearing that, and just
good.
such a new message, I think, for folks in this district, that it feels really good. I've heard many people.
Oh.
Yeah, and on a more personal note, it was a delight to have you there at the subcommittee meeting and just to work with you and to get to know you already. I think you're going to be excellent for our district.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
I have a mini question. Can you just speak a little bit? You say the surveys will be administered to staff, students, families, care. So I'm curious, like how you envision that, what you're trying to learn, how you, and you probably haven't pinned it down entirely, but I'm curious to hear you say more about.
I really think it's about, where are we, what should be our immediate focus, like what needs to happen right away, and sort of what are our long-term goals. And I think it's really important to get a sense of, through surveys for people who can't attend meetings and who can't, or who feel like, they may not be able to articulate what really happened or their experiences out in a public forum. A survey is a great way to gather that feedback, and, how are their student experiences in school is really going to be at the heart of those survey questions. Do they feel that sense of belonging? Do they feel like they have opportunities to thrive? And, we're just like you mentioned, school choice, like what is making you come and show up every day, and what can we do better to capture those students who are making choices to maybe not go to Easthampton Public Schools, and what can we do to draw a broader community?
Great. Well said. If we're all set with this, anything else, Dr. Balch?
No.
We are going to move on then to school committee discussion. The first item, Sam, I have policy first, but let's just blip off finance and CES and then circle back to policy, and then we can do MGL. Okay, great. So finance, our chair.
Yes. I have no.
Why is that not a separate? Okay.
I have no updates on finance. We haven't met.
Okay, which is typical just for the public. We're not slacking. Our work happens on basically an 8-month turnaround, starts in about October, wraps up in about May. And so that's
we worked really hard for many months, and we've also gone on summer break. Not Juliet left.
And right now, our Director of Business Services is working on buttoning up all of this stuff, and she doesn't need us in the way.
Which is what I would be, so.
Yes. Do you want to do a playground update as well, and then we'll have CES?
Yes, I'm super excited about the playground. So we had like our large group committee work on this.
Can we do a recap?
Sure.
Okay.
How far back should I go?
I would just
roll back to Maple.
Not forever, just what it's about, like playground at MBA, you know.
Yeah. So essentially, this is a student-led initiative. Students came to City Council. They went to a CPA meeting. They came to our meeting, and they prepped. They wrote scripts for themselves. They circled a petition amongst themselves to prepare, and they came and talked to us about the accessibility and inclusivity of the playground at Mountain View School, really focusing on that inclusivity part. So while we don't have any ADA, I don't know,
ADA compliance structures.
Yeah, we don't have any compliance issues, but it means that, you know, there are some places where some folks with wheels can't roll to, or they have to be sort of separated from each other. And
particularly in upper elementary and middle school levels.
And just some more ways to have fun and joy out on the playground. And this is the kind of project that I always am like 100% I'm on board, because there's just so many dark things happening in our world. Like playground, I can do this, we're gonna do this thing. So we made a committee, lots of parents, kids who have been coming to all of the meetings, who have done a bunch of the work. We did a survey, we had a great response to our survey to set priorities of what we'd like to see on the playground. And so the committee work is not over, but it's sort of paused while the city planner and myself and Jackie Julowitz are sort of in the weeds, getting 2 different estimates, sorting through kind of high level, like what's possible, what's reasonable, you know, something along those lines. And so there was a one stakeholder meeting with sort of all the people around, and then we sort of are just in this estimate stage of things again, according to city rules of like what has to go out to bid and RFPs, and you know, I'm in above my head on that. So all those rules are being followed.
So because it's city spending, we have to follow a set of rules so that we can't favor one company over another, so that Megan can't launder money, so that or pay favors to contracting firms that she has close ties to.
That ruins the fun of the playground.
Sure does.
So, yeah, so we're at that stage. We have 2 companies at this point, Miracle Playground and Berkshire Design, I want to say. So Miracle is a well-known group that does accessible and inclusive playgrounds, and Berkshire is the group that did the current outdoor space at MVS. So both will sort of walk us through what's possible, and then once we have all of that back together, which I think we are getting at least to a point where that might be, you know, within sight, we'll gather back the stakeholders, so our superintendent and the committee and our director of finance services and business services, and sort of make a decision about how to move forward. But we are fully underway. This thing is happening.
It's great.
And we've received indications from our city partners. I'm looking over at our mayor, that the city has some ability to help, as well as CPA is on board. So it looks like we have some good startup funds for our grants there. We'll have to do some more for sure. The money is not going to just drop into our laps, but I feel really positive about it.
Tim, you have a question?
No, more of a comment.
Sure.
It's a comment. I wanted to point out how Megan is taking this situation, which can sound, a lot of the input can sound a lot like sniping, and it can sound negative. And I just even now was amazed by the positive spin. You know, Megan's not knocked off kilter at all, and she's just striding forward, and she's taking all this input, and she's handling like a lot of things really well. One of which I'll also applaud you for was the other day when the weeding was happening. That a few people showed up and didn't want to participate in weeding, and they had other things. And Megan showed up and she took her time and she weeded with, you know, my wife and some other people that were weeding, and she just really, that's a big contribution, because that's your time, you know, and Megan did that just out of the goodness of her heart. And those are amazing things, and it's an excellent community service.
And we can't get to a meeting without Megan. You're not crying.
I'm trying to just
Megan
go
is a
down
treasure.
inside.
Megan is a
Thank you.
treasure. And she,
That's very kind.
the kids came in and spoke, and Megan immediately stepped up and took action and didn't take it away from them, but welcomed them in.
Yeah, they're in
And
charge.
took their ideas to the people who can make that happen.
They're in charge of
It's
this
a
thing.
lot.
They're empowered.
It's not easy, you know, it could have gone in any different
Sure.
direction and it went that way.
you.
It's great.
You're my favorite.
Right?
We need an RFP on who's Megan's favorite. Sam, any questions or comments? No, okay. We are gonna move on to the CES update, and then we'll finish up with that policy first read, Sam.
Great. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, CES is the Collaborative for Educational Services. It is the collaborative that we are members of. The collaboratives were established so that school districts could sort of pool the provision of certain special education costs. And that's kind of how the collaborative started, and now the CES is the largest collaborative in the state, and I am the representative for it from Easthampton. So I don't know if this had happened the last time I gave a report, but essentially the executive director, Todd Gazda, has resigned from the collaborative. Karen Reuter has taken over as the interim executive director. She is fantastic. She has been at the collaborative for a really long time, really understands it. This is an organization that is large and sprawling and very, very financially complex, and she's got a really good handle on things. And so I'm participating in a working group, which is kind of acting as sort of a coordinating the search for the new executive director. So we had our first meeting last night, and we were working on reaching out to some hiring firms to get some assistance with that process. But it seems to be going pretty good so far. So, feel like things are on a good track. So that's CES.
Great.
Do you have questions or anything?
Any questions about CES? Oh, yes, Tim, go ahead.
Just another comment.
Yeah, of course.
Sam is another incredible community servant. You guys are in good hands. There's a lot of good people doing a lot of really tough work, and just wanted to put
They're
that
all
out there.
workhorses. They're workhorses and show ponies. They're all beautiful. They're workhorses.
Right, totally.
Sam, we're going to call on you again as chair of policy to start to walk us through your update, and then we're going to dig into your first reading on this AI policy. Do you want to take the lead of that discussion?
Yeah, so I'm just realizing now like how many meetings I've already been in this week because we had our AI policy, our policy subcommittee meeting yesterday. So on the policy subcommittee, we set policies that the school district then follows, and they're implemented by the superintendent and the administrative team. We had a great meeting yesterday. We kind of discussed our kind of priorities for this upcoming school year, and we've got a pretty good list of things to work on. We also are bringing for first reading a policy on generative AI. This is a longer document, and I apologize for reading the whole thing, but I'm going to.
That was per my direction. Sam asked me, and I said a first reading is a first reading, read the whole thing. So this is about 3.5 pages, everyone, and the way this process goes for the public is that this is read into the public record initially at a first reading, and we can take a vote, an up or down vote to consider to move it forward or not. If it moves forward, then it'll be considered at a second reading. I'm hearing an echo, that's driving me nuts, it's fine. Between reading 1 and 2, we can welcome any public input, and then at the next meeting, we would anticipate, if this were to pass, we would anticipate having the second reading and a vote to consider to adopt it as one of our policies. So we'll make this available. It was not in the agenda packet, I believe, because the policy meeting was just yesterday, but we can add it to that so it'll be available online.
I have a question about that process. If we have a vote to move it forward today, is that going to be without adjustment, we're just going to move forward in the language that it's in?
That's a great question. So it can be any number of things. So we can request amendments or revisions. It can be sent back to policy for consideration of that. If it seems at first blush that it's good as a first reading, it can move to a second reading. Then at the second reading consideration, it can again be considered for revision or amendment.
Okay.
It can be kicked back to policy for that.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. Great question.
Thanks.
Sam, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I'm going to try to share it.
Perfect.
Yes. You guys can see it? Okay, it says don't share your screen. Okay, sure. So I'm gonna read it, and I think you already covered this far, but the public will be able to access it from our website, or you can access it by emailing me. I'm happy to send it out. ESD.us. So this is the Easthampton Public Schools Generative Artificial Intelligence Policy for K-12 teachers and students. And if anybody noticed any typos, I've already gone through it a couple of times, but let me know, not in front of cameras and live streams. Let me know on the side. So section 1, purpose, the mission. Oh, and I just want to say too, this was brought to us by Julianne Levin, and I believe it was I don't remember who it was that was working with her on this last year, but they worked on this together and brought this to us in February, I think, and so I'm really glad to be able to bring it out now.
So Julianne Levin is our curriculum and grants coordinator for the district. Go ahead, Sam.
Yes. Section 1, purpose. The mission of the Easthampton Public Schools, in line with DESE's educational vision, is to ensure that students' education prepares them to live meaningful and productive lives and to fully engage in work, in civic life, and in personal and intellectual growth. Strong indicators from research and economics point to generative AI, Gen AI, as a key technology that is becoming increasingly central to many domains of our social, political, and economic lives, and that all people will benefit from having fluency in Gen AI concepts and use. Learning to be a skilled and ethical user of Gen AI is part of the preparation that students need for the future and a component of becoming a digitally literate citizen, as described in the Commonwealth's digital literacy and computer science curriculum frameworks. Therefore, the purpose of this policy is to support the wise and appropriate use of Gen AI in the context of teaching and learning to help strengthen students skilled with technology, aid deep learning and creative thinking, and help develop students' ability to engage ethically with the digital world. The purpose of adopting this generative artificial intelligence policy is to provide a broad guiding framework for responsible, ethical, and effective use of Gen AI in our school district by teachers and students.
Pause. I have
Creative.
Yep, I have responsible, ethical, and creative use. Is that a change? Which one stands?
What was that? I'm sorry.
I have a framework for responsible, ethical, and creative use. You said effective use, so which one stands?
Oh, creative.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. Continue.
Creative use of Gen AI in our school district by teachers and students. It is not a comprehensive policy to govern all possible uses of Gen AI by all people in the district. Everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
What is the next part? Okay, section 2, definitions. 2.1, generative AI. Generative AI, Gen AI, refers to machine learning models that are trained on vast data sets and are intended to create new similar data. They can be used to generate text, images, code, video, audio, and other forms of content. Gen AI can come in the form of standalone tools such as ChatGPT, Claude, and Magic School, or as a component part of another piece of software such as the image generator in Canva or the Help Me Write extension in Chrome. 2.1, Gen AI fluency. Easthampton Public Schools understands Gen AI fluency as the constellation of skills, mindsets, and knowledge that a person needs if they are to use and or engage critically with Gen AI. Components of Gen AI fluency include understanding the basic underlying technical functions that make Gen AI work and therefore what it can do well and cannot do well. Recognition of a range of ethical domains that are relevant to Gen AI, including but not limited to the possibility of bias, data privacy and safety issues, and environmental concerns. Awareness of information quality concerns, such as unintentional AI hallucinations and the possibility of disinformation. Ability to discern when Gen AI is an appropriate tool for a given task and when it is not. Ability to use Gen AI tools wisely, appropriately, and effectively through prompt engineering strategies. Section 3, instructional uses of Gen AI. 3.1, professional learning. The district will provide regular and ongoing professional learning support to all educators to help them explore and understand educational uses of Gen AI, equity and justice considerations, data privacy concerns, and other relevant topics. School leaders will regularly assess teachers' professional learning needs related to Gen AI. 3.2, classroom uses. The superintendent will designate an administrator to serve as the Gen AI coordinator. The Gen AI coordinator will maintain a list of Gen AI tools applications that the district endorses, including information about the relevant data privacy agreements that the district has with Gen AI vendors. When teachers use Gen AI in the classroom, it will be to supplement, not supplant, instruction. Educators will transparently disclose via APA or MLA citation and/or verbally describe to students all instances of Gen AI used for instructional purposes. Educators will follow all legal and data privacy guidelines to ensure that student data and privacy is not put at risk. Students are expected to adhere to the district's acceptable use policy, AUP, and all other relevant behavioral and academic integrity policies and guidelines while using Gen AI. Excuse me for a second. This is what Julia warned me about.
If you want me to pick up the reading, I'll do that, but you're doing great.
No, I'm good.
Okay, good.
3.3, digital literacy and 21st century skills. Students will be given regular opportunities to engage with core concepts and practices related to Gen AI to help them gain fluency with Gen AI. Students will have opportunities to learn about ethical issues that arise from Gen AI. Students will learn how to critically evaluate information generated by or possibly generated by Gen AI. 3.4, grading and assessment, and this was adapted from the policy at Uxbridge Public Schools, which is linked here. The district encourages the professional use of AI for formative and summative assessments to improve the efficiency of grading and feedback. Teachers will ensure that AI-supported assessments align with curriculum standards and maintain the academic rigor and fairness of the grading process. Students and caregivers must be informed when AI is used in the assessment of work and have the option to request human grading for any assignment or assessment. Students and caregivers may sign a form at the beginning of the year explaining and agreeing to the policy. This form will be generated and managed by the Gen AI coordinator. 3.5, plagiarism and cheating detection. Teachers may use Gen AI plagiarism detectors that have been vetted and approved for use by the district. AI plagiarism detectors are currently unreliable. When student work is flagged as plagiarism, cheating by such detectors, teachers will first have a conversation with the student to build understanding about if, how, and why the student used Gen AI, about appropriate and ethical use of Gen AI, and about appropriate and ethical use of Gen AI. The teacher will then use their professional judgment to determine next steps in alignment with the school and district discipline codes, academic integrity codes, and other policies and guidelines. Section 4, data privacy and legal guidelines. 4.1, data privacy. Any Gen AI tools endorsed by or used in the district will comply with all relevant laws and guidelines related to user data, including student data. Students and families will be informed of the extent and purpose of any student and family data that is shared with Gen AI systems. The district will develop and disseminate guidelines to help teachers and students understand the considerations related to Gen AI and cybersecurity. 4.2, legal use. All Gen AI applications endorsed by the district will comply with local, state, and federal laws and regulations. They will be reviewed regularly by the Gen AI coordinator to ensure compliance with legal standards. Section 5, incident response. The committee expects its administration to follow the district's incident response plan for responding to incidents involving Gen AI, such as data breaches or misuse of Gen AI tools. The Gen AI coordinator will be responsible for ensuring that the district's incident response plan is followed. 6, equity and accessibility. The committee expects its administration to develop guidelines for ensuring that Gen AI is used in a way that is equitable and accessible to all students. And Section 7, review and revision. This policy will be regularly revisited and evaluated to ensure that it remains relevant and up to date with changing technology landscape. When revisions to this policy are recommended, the Gen AI coordinator will notify the superintendent, school committee, and policy subcommittee chair. And that's the end of it.
Okay. I bet we have some questions. Who would like to, we want to start at one end of the table? You sat on policy, so maybe you don't have as many questions as us.
Oh, no, I would have
Okay.
as many as you.
Good. Let's kick off with you, Tim.
Sure. Is the policy subcommittee meeting again before an attempt at second reading?
That will depend on the discretion of the policy chair and what happens in this conversation tonight.
Okay. In my opinion, there are some points in here which are aspirational language, and then there are some points in here that are technical, like language and like actionable things. And I think that those two things are intertwined in this, and depending on the rest of this conversation and what this text is supposed to provide, to me that could require some conversation and revision. But again, it's depending on what this text is providing to the school, whether it's a loose guideline, which is used as a tool to recognize and acknowledge and then move into a different format or venue any type of issue around AI. Did that statement make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's a piggyback thought to help frame this kind of what feels a bit overwhelming, I think, to all of us, particularly those of us who aren't very well versed in tech. If you look at the very last section, section 7, review and revision, what may be helpful, I think something is better than nothing at this juncture. And so if we can frame this in saying the one revision we might want to request is that every school committee, once seated, reviews this policy in the first 6 months, so that if we were to pass something, it would immediately be up for revision in the first 6 months of next year and every 2 years after that. That would just be kind of a baseline suggestion for what might help kind of assuage the fear that we have about,
or the desire to
jumping off a cliff.
To tighten it up.
Exactly right, and not having all the information now and seeing how it plays out. Did you ever hand up, Dr. Rob? Okay, no. Eric, did you know?
So I'm on the subcommittee, so we met about this last night. I think it's incredibly thorough. I think that this is probably going to be one of the most fluid policies we have, just because the landscape of tools and accessibility are shifting so quickly. I think it's also going to be something that's going to take a lot of consideration of helping educators stay on the same wavelength as students. I'm also envisioning think tanks where I feel like when I'm in my classroom, oftentimes if a kid comes to me with a tech issue, there's 20 other kids. I just say, these are better suited assisters to you. So just getting some type of a think tank of students and helping teachers and teachers helping students and kind of working as a unit, because it's such an overwhelming new technology that is, I mean, it's evolving very rapidly. So I think this is super thorough. Kudos to Sam, Julianne for putting this, their efforts are immense. And I think it's a good start, but I think it's definitely, what you just mentioned about the review and revisions, this is gonna be something where we're just gonna have to communicate.
Saying regularly is not enough.
Yeah, it's gonna be,
You're gonna need
it's
to
pretty.
compel every committee.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I will say one thing too is that we want to be mindful of that distinct division between a policy and a procedure. So there are things that I think will be important from the procedural standpoint that certainly would be in concert with the superintendent and the leadership team to figure out how to deploy this on the ground and to be nimble. That doesn't necessarily rise to concrete policy outlines, although certainly in a small district with a small committee, we can be agile and make revisions relatively quickly, like within a month.
So this is just informing the procedures.
Right. Think of it like the top line and then like the
Guardrails.
Sure, exactly, and guidelines,
Okay.
and but like allowing teachers the ability to recruit students to assist. That isn't a policy, that's a procedure, right? So those are the types of things that like we can be thinking about procedures as we're setting the guidelines of a policy.
Right, it's tough to look at this also and realize it's not a legal document, it's not a binding document.
It is. That's the difference with a policy, right? So the policy means if someone steps a teacher or faculty member, for example, step a foot of this, they would be in trouble in theory.
Right,
Like,
so that's, in that situation, that's where I feel like there's a lot to,
Sure.
there's a lot of holes in it,
Sure.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Anyone else have thoughts? Sam, I'm
Can I
curious.
just jump in?
Yes.
Can I respond to a little bit of that?
Sure,
So,
sure.
I think when you're reading it out loud like this and kind of taking it in for the first time, it's a little, essentially what this policy does is it sets up our values and kind of the purpose of the policy and kind of what we're hoping to attain through it. And then essentially it denotes kind of who in the district is going to be responsible for making sure that the policy is followed and then also for implementing the procedures that are associated with it. So in this case, that person is the Gen AI coordinator who's appointed by the superintendent. And so I don't want to lose that part because to me, that's kind of the most actionable item on here is that like we now have like a point person in the district whose job it is well, part of their job is to kind of make sure that this is all happening. Right now, it's kind of up to each individual teacher and principal in the moment to sort of decide how they're going to respond to anything that happens with any student or any time this comes up. So this kind of sets it up as like, here's our values, here's our an overview of our policy, and then here's the person who's responsible for helping to implement this and make sure that it's happening within the district.
Well said.
What's that person that's set up as the point person, what are they going to use for when they're going to have actionable?
The Gen AI coordinator?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are they going to use? Continue your thought?
When there's a problem that they need to solve, and so this document is definitely directing them towards a Gen AI coordinator. What is the Gen AI coordinator going to base their decisions on? What policy or what are they going to read or?
So they go back to this policy and they look and say like, here's, I'm so sorry that I have to move this in real time.
No worries.
But like, so here's the purpose, here's our, this is what we're like, does the technology that I'm being asked about even fall under generated AI? Like they'll be able to sort of figure that out. And then depending on what's happening, they can look through here and there are kind of various guidances for what it should look like to use this in the classroom, or what it should look like if a student is using it, or if we suspect a student is using it, like what should the process be. One of the things that we talked about was at one point in here, we talked about what happens if we think a student is using it for plagiarism, and the superintendent pointed out that we need to make sure that we're that before we're getting to the point where we're saying you're not allowed to do this, you use ChatGPT to write your paper, that's not allowed. We have to like establish that they actually did that. And it's not always easy to do.
Right, I mean, they could use.
This is kind of it's kind of a guide for like how to solve these problems when they come up, as they inevitably will. And then when the Gen AI person has come across a situation that they're really they don't think is handled, or is encompassed within the scope of this, they can always come to us and say, we need to do a revision to this policy. And we expect that person to also just kind of be staying on top of what's going on in other districts. And like we said, some of this was taken from Uxbridge's policy. Right now, there's no guidance from MASC, the Mass Association of School Committees, who usually kind of provides policy. They haven't quite gotten all the way there yet, and they will. And once they do, we'll be incorporating their recommendation as well. So this is just kind of giving us a bit of a jump start at a time when a lot of districts don't really have anything in writing to go off of.
So, Tim, go ahead.
No, I think that a lot of this is going to be either subcommittee and rereading, or so I don't.
And I want to kind of communicate something to the public. This is a lot to chew on. Our policies don't often run this long in length, and they aren't often dealing with a topic that is just so new and maybe unfamiliar to a lot of the people. So I want to offer this kind of framework for how if your thesis of how to function in government and offer this type of guidance is these laboratories of democracy, we can look at this as an opportunity to implement something. You want to strike a balance between considering implications theoretically and then placing something into practice to allow it to start to function organically, and then give yourself enough room in that process to make adequate revisions and adjustments, right? Which is why I think it was important to include that last section about review and revisions. And my only recommendation for an amendment would be to set a clear, to require the school committee to review this at least once a term, if not once a year. And I don't know if anyone...
I really like that suggestion. The only thing that worries me about it is now I'm thinking about how many other policies you could potentially apply to. But I think starting with this one for sure, I think that's a good suggestion.
Or maybe we even say policy subcommittee. The policy subcommittee has to take it up within the first 6 months of every term and consider whether, with the input from your superintendent, your leadership team, your board, something to that effect. That would be that's the only thing that strikes me. Everything else, I think we kind of have to let it play out and make adjustments on the ground. Anyone else have concerns, questions, comments?
I have some. Okay, questions. So I tried to take note of which section they were in, but I'm not quite sure. Where you first introduced the idea of the Gen AI administrator or the Gen AI coordinator, who's an administrator. Is that a new position, or that's a position tacked on to somebody else's?
Yeah, is it like a team leader? Is it a stipend
person in your district?
Do we have any idea, what does it take to be a Gen AI coordinator? Is it 10 hours a week? Is it 2 hours a week?
Sure, that's an excellent question.
I guess it would depend on the number and the training and professional development that will require.
Question. What's the training?
Yeah.
And you're assuming there will be a stipend attached to that? I know. Government, everybody. Isn't it great? Yeah.
We did not discuss that. I think our understanding is that this would not. I didn't feel like this was necessarily going to involve a whole lot of extra work. Like certainly not on a weekly basis. We hadn't discussed any kind of additional stipend or anything, but we can certainly talk about that depending on what your thoughts are.
Sure. Tim, go ahead.
That question right there, there's a lot of those that were, to me, it's either going to be, we're not going to do it right now because we could end up staying here forever, just nitpicking and fixing this and doing the things that we think are appropriate in this language, or we're going to move to subcommittee and try it there. And
I'll say too, stipend and amount, those are not policy. That's procedure. So what we're raising, I think, is this body comfortable passing a policy, kind of understanding what we imagine the guidelines will be as we implement and establish procedure? It's not up to us in the policy to dictate it will have a stipend or it won't, it would be this amount or it won't.
Sure.
That again is between that, But it's good for us to look at this and say, here's the questions we would raise as we implement it. Another option at your disposal is for us to adopt this as a policy that we say we enact in the district, let's say January 1, 2026 or something like that it gives an opportunity for the district to say, we're not going to hold people's feet to the fire, we're going to have a rollout and the schedule will look like this. Sure. That's another option. And this is why we do multiple readings.
if I may.
Yeah, of course. And also, 1 second, Sam, go ahead, Tim.
The only concern I have with that is just the idea of kind of starting off just jumping off with a leaky barrel and knowing, going into it, and then it just will get washed back.
Absolutely.
There's stuff that needs to be addressed as it's implemented, sorry. And if we just go, well, what we need to do is just forget that stuff and just move forward because we want to have a policy, then that stuff is going to remain forgotten. Some of that stuff is going to remain forgotten. I don't think every bit of it needs to be also touched on and revised, but I think that, in the nature of governance, those things end up being, lost in the weeds if we roll forward. That's my only concern with that part of it. other than that, like I said, for me, subcommittee conversation, there's some stuff to touch on, and that's where I feel my stuff would be appropriate.
Sure. Really thoughtful. I'm gonna get to Sam and then to you, unless you want to go and then Sam is something Sam can answer.
It's just along the same line. So my question was about sort of the time requirement, who that person's going to be, do they have to have a particular qualification? Just like questions about, like, could I, if I work in the district, can I be the Gen AI coordinator? And here's the spoiler alert, you should not pick me to be the Gen AI coordinator, right? Like, who gets the, it just seems like a important, yeah, okay.
This is something that a lot, if you read through like a lot of school policies, this is something that you'll see is like, here's a policy and here's the person who's going to be responsible for keeping track of the policy within the district. So it's pretty common for that to be somebody that the superintendent designates, or we just say, and you'll notice this too in a lot of our policies, it just says the superintendent will do this. Which was kind of an option that we had with this one, but we kind of decided that, and I saw this as actually either the superintendent can designate an administrator, or the superintendent can just be the Gen AI coordinator. So this is kind of keeping that. I mean, I think that's one of the things that gets complicated about like passing policy is just like Tim was saying, keeping track of like who's keeping track of it. So one of the things that's really important is designating a person who is the person who is kind of leading it. And then also I also want to emphasize this was mostly written and brought to us by an administrator who has been dealing with this frequently. So this is, I think that like I understand some of the concerns about the workload and the and everything, but I feel like if this was something that I had sat down and written without a whole lot of input from people who were actually in the buildings, I would be a little bit more hesitant, because this came from folks who are working every day and kind of know a little bit more about the context. I'm more comfortable with it being more comprehensive and a little bit more like it's a little heavier than a lot of our other policies are. Like a lot of our policies are not this lengthy. I feel like it's really important to kind of set the tone with our values and with kind of what the reason why we're doing it this way. And what we're really asking is just to sort of recognize, honestly, work that's already being done, but doing it in a more consistent way.
I feel like at this point it's an appropriate time to ask what we do to move forward.
So when I see we've kind of gone through the questions and comments on the floor, then I would say that I would entertain a motion to accept this as a first reading, assuming that no one is requesting an amendment to that. So if there is an amendment that seems to be filtering through, we would add that and then entertain a motion to vote, and it would pass or it wouldn't. So do we have any other questions, concerns, suggestions for amendments? Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Great. Who want to fight it out? Megan, go ahead, and then
Well,
let's hear
just
from
to, as a clarifying point, and for the public as well, I'm not on policy, right? It doesn't mean I can't come and like sit and observe you all, but this is because I'm not part of that, like, getting the details, this is my only chance to say, here are the things I would like for y'all to discuss in your policy, just so you know why I'm going into the weeds of.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, that's not a like, come on, let's move on.
Yeah.
I mean, just the idea that every point that's made brings up another point, and then, I have something that I want to say about those things, and then I have something I want to say about the things that I said.
These are just agenda points for the policy meeting.
Yeah.
There was a part in this policy where you talk about Gen AI policies or Gen AI products that the district endorses, and maybe, again, like a prime example of getting into the weeds of things, maybe I should just not worry about that. But other places you use wording like, oh, I didn't write it down, I should have.
where they say, for example.
There's just a nuance to something being endorsed as like, you should use this. Is that really what the policy intended versus, so yeah.
No, there was another encourage the use of too.
Okay.
So I think we'll look at, I think in subcommittee.
Some of those words.
I think the purpose of that is to like, because there are a lot of products out there, and it is a very unregulated market for Gen AI products right now. So I think what was meant by that was that there's going to be a list that the Gen AI coordinator is going to keep of products that have been vetted and have been found to be secure, safe for our students to use, or safe for our staff to use, and like appropriate for school. Like there's just a number.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a wild world out there, and there's not a whole lot of regulation.
100%.
So I think that's more of what that was referring to, but I can see how, it might also seem like we're saying that people must use generative AI, which is definitely not necessarily the direction that it's going. Although we do kind of talk about the importance of learning how to use these tools critically as well. So down the road, it might become a requirement for certain things. I don't know what the world's going to look like in 10 years. So.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Hey, I'm on school committee, right?
You are. Let your flag fly. Let's go.
And I think I actually have some insight into this because I live it. My high school students are using this really effectively. And so I think, my first thought here is this is actually, from my perspective, I think this is a good policy that states the intention and the kind of mission, and then it goes to kind of explain how AI can be used to support that. And I think that's really important because a lot of people are just scared of AI. And so this is a forward-looking policy, in my opinion. And I think that if you don't address this, and you don't have a policy, you're looking at again, people are saying Wild West, but it's kind of like, the students are using this, and the students understand this way better than us. And I find that my students are teaching me you should go to this, if you want to create these images, this is what you do. And they're teaching me. So, I think one of the important pieces here that's addressed is professional development. I think that part's really important. I did kind of trigger in on if this is going to be assigned to somebody, are there going to be, what is that going to look like? Is there going to be a stipend for that? I mean, that's a structural thing, and administrators have lots of responsibilities that maybe they don't get stipends for, so I think that could be completely fine. And I do think that the way that it addresses student use in a non-punitive way and encouraging dialogue is important. And I think the encouragement of teachers to be able to use AI as part of their creative process is also important because this is a tool. And if you know how to use tools, then you can create something beautiful. And if you don't know how to use it, you can destroy things. So, I think that having a policy, whether it's, the perfectly crafted wordsmith policy or not, in place probably is a good start, especially as the Association of School Committees comes along and develops a policy where this policy could potentially be updated. And as these things evolve, that update wouldn't necessarily have to wait for a revision. It could be, as they release their information, it could be something that comes back to the school committee at that moment and is, hey, we didn't include this. And then the last thing I guess I would say is, have you had AI take a crack at writing this?
Sam?
I've been trying to work a joke in about that this time. I think quite come together, so I appreciate you bringing that up. I was just thinking, I really appreciate your input, Mayor, as a teacher in particular, because I do think my wife is a middle school teacher, and when I've talked to her about this, she's been very enthusiastic about the idea that anybody is doing any kind of policy, I think one of the examples too, just so that I think when people think about generative AI, a lot of times they kind of default to ChatGPT or just kind of the more consumer facing or the free stuff that you can use. But Julianne Levin, when she was describing this policy to me initially, when she was working on it, one of the examples that she gave to me of a generative AI program was I forget what it's called, but it's a program where students who have difficulty with writing can write a sentence, and the program will draw a picture of what they've written. So they can write a stream running across a field, and it'll draw a picture, and then they can say, okay, now a stream running across the field with flowers in it, and then the thing adds the flowers, and it's just we think a lot about generative AI being used to like replace student writing, but I really love the idea of like using some of these tools to get students to feel more confident about writing and to find writing to be more fun too. And I know that's an area that like all students in our state and in our district, but in our state in general are struggling in. And so it really kind of helped me think like, I think we need to get some stuff written down about like what our values and reasonings are and like what our desired outcomes are, which is that we have students who can use these tools as tools, who feel like they can critically analyze the results of generative AI or critically analyze things like this policy to be like, I don't know, maybe it was written by a robot. I think that's super cool, and I'm glad to be like moving in that direction. So this is a very like exciting conversation together with you all, to be honest.
Megan.
Just in case the questions were coming across as not thinking this is a great policy, thank you to the policy committee and Sam and Julianne for putting this together. This is great. I see it on the college side of things, and it's like, I describe it sometimes as soul crushing because I think the students who are in college right now really I'm really heartened to hear that high school students are able to like use it critically, because it's just, man, some of the stuff that I get in college will crush your soul with hallucinations and like, did you move this back over? Anyway, so I just have two more questions or two more thoughts. One is in section 3.4, and I believe this is the section about discipline if it's suspected that being inappropriately used. I couldn't quite get there it is. Is it? Okay, well, I'll just say, my note was, there's something along the lines of like the teachers using their professional judgment to determine next steps in alignment with, and okay, it does say in alignment with. So just because I couldn't like see it all in front of me to like process, whenever I see something about professional judgment and consequences, I like put a red flag up of things that can be unevenly applied. So I just wanted to make sure, I think it does say in alignment.
It says, so AI plagiarism detectors are currently unreliable. When student work is flagged as plagiarism or cheating by such detectors, teachers will first have a conversation with the student to build understanding about if, how, and why the student used Gen AI, about appropriate and ethical use of Gen AI. The teacher will then use their professional judgment to determine next steps in alignment with school and district discipline codes, academic integrity codes, and other policies and guidelines. It does seem like you may, if you think you're flagging something, that might be a time to just get a second set of eyes, either that coordinator or somebody who that coordinator thinks is appropriately comfortable.
Professional judgment as like without some second set of eyes, I just worry about things.
I just think they're going to be ill-equipped for some period of time until you roll out all that PD and they're seeing it on the ground for a period of time. And I don't
think anyone means to do it, but this type of kid would do that. This type of kid wouldn't do that. Like, I just want to make sure that
and at this point, this leaves it entirely within the teacher's professional judgment realm, which I think is what. Go ahead, Sam.
And also, we started this section out by saying that the plagiarism detectors are not reliable, which is definitely true. So this is kind of like, this was an example actually of one of the things that we may be asked to update in the near future is should the technology change. If we get to a point where teachers are like right now, AI plagiarism detectors in particular are unreliable, and according to this policy, we won't be using them now because there aren't any that the Gen AI coordinator would approve. If in the future there is one that the Gen AI coordinator approves and it's used and students' work is flagged in it, this is the process that they would go through. So, I guess I like having this in here because we could just have it say we can't use any AI plagiarism detectors, they're all unreliable, and that's the end, and we can't, But I like having this here because I like the idea that in the future, if AI plagiarism detectors do become available and we are re-looking at this policy to determine whether or not we're going to be using them, we can kind of remember in the original spirit, we did have kind of a process here that we were recommending, which is that they're first in the conversation with the student, and that then, the teacher is going to be using their professional judgment and following school and district discipline codes.
So that's what I want to zone in on. So it already
I want the first part too. I agree with you. I just want that part.
So it says the teacher will then use their professional judgment to determine next steps in alignment with school and district discipline codes. And I think that the way that this is treated and handled is going to look vastly differently in 5th grade than it is in 11th grade. So I think this might be something where the superintendent and leadership team have to give directives to building administrators about, okay, so here's this teacher's judgment piece. If you're ever having a situation, AI or not, where a student is questioned about cheating or plagiarism, I know that we have discipline codes around that. So how can we look at those again? Are those flexible enough to accept AI as part of the puzzle, et cetera? But again, that's a line, I think, between policy and procedure. Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, no.
I know. I will talk until you forget what you want to do. That's a superpower I have.
Oh, man. It's gone for right now. I'll put my hand back up if I recall it.
I just really want to, for that point, Sam, the point I'm making is I want all the first part of that is great. I just, rather than in alignment with, I get to pick on my own using my judgment in what I believe follows the policy,
coordinator too.
In consultation with, right? Put into the policy that there's a second pair of eyes, because I always try to think of these policies from our best hope and how our teachers who are currently in the district act and behave with best interests in mind. But I want there to be a guardrail of how it doesn't get unevenly applied to this type of student who they don't have fancy computers at home, and so they don't. I don't know. I'm just making things up. You know what I mean?
It makes it fair for the teacher and the student.
Yes.
We offer clarity.
If I may.
You know what I mean, Sam?
I do. But I sort of lost in the middle there. So do you want to amend this, I guess, to say I'm just confused about the change that we want to make.
In consultation or something. I don't have a specific amendment I request. I'm
going to hear Tim's question, and then I have kind of a blanket suggestion. Go ahead, Tim.
It was just the idea that the things that we're touching on now, we're starting to look at talking about revising language and things like that, and those are the things that I was concerned with initially. Was there are places in this, again, that's why I said depending on the application of the policy and what the policy is going to do, there are places where we could do a lot to tighten up the language. And there was a thing that I had as an example, but I can't remember exactly what that was, but I will after. But that's my whole point, I guess, is that in this first reading, if we accept this first reading, are we going to meet before the second reading happens and revise things there and have this conversation?
Well, yes.
The thing is, we do a first reading, and then importantly, the public also has an opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah.
And so I would say, I would like to sort of, if we get some feedback from some folks in the community, that there might be feedback such that we realize we really do need to take it back to committee, and we would vote to do that right at our next school committee meeting. Does that sound right, Laura?
Yeah, I'm going to address that in a second. Go ahead, Tim.
I think that I see in 3.5 the first bullet point, or maybe the second one. One of the things that we were discussing was, do we even need to mention that AI plagiarism detectors are currently unreliable if we're just leaving an opening to at some point add an amendment about AI generators are now great and now acceptable. And we don't need to necessarily mention that if we're not going to allow the use of AI generators to check for plagiarism, then it's not something that we even need to talk about.
Okay, so I'm seeing 3 hot spots kind of bubbling up. So here would be and let me identify the 3 hot spots and give a recommendation and then see how the committee feels about it. So it would be that 3.5 section. Both bullet points, I just think, take a look and like, it might need a couple of sleeps and a little bit of input. So 3.5, plagiarism and cheating detection, which is the thing you most recently talked about. Section 5, the first bullet point that references the district's incident response plan. I would just like to know what that is and where it exists and how we're referencing it.
If I can add something real quick that was part of that,
Of the incident response plan?
No, the 3.5.
Okay,
the
yep.
first was just because the issue of plagiarism and cheating is going to be one of the primary things that the teachers will be dealing with.
Sure.
That was just my point, is that that's a really important thing to have at least some, language that is functional.
It's going to get the most use.
Right, exactly. That's all.
Good point.
Thanks.
The last hotspot that I'm seeing is that last section 7. And I have a suggestion for a third bullet point. I'm fine with the first 2, but I have a suggestion for a third bullet point. Now, if all we saw was one hotspot with adding one additional bullet point, that would be something where it would be appropriate to accept the first reading as written with the addition of one amendment. It looks like we're kind of in the territory where we can say tentative exception of first reading with a direction to review a specified list. And I would propose those 3 hotspots and would be open to any other concerns that people might have that the policy subcommittee would take up between now and our next meeting or whenever, and after you have met, you would bring us something that could qualify for a second reading. And if it has changed beyond the scope of that direction, then it would be brought forward for a second first reading, if that makes sense.
And I don't, for me personally, I wouldn't be prepared, and I wouldn't be comfortable letting things without another, not just another reading, but without me, again, sitting at home and looking at this and looking for things that I want to highlight and make sure are in the amendment to at least approach revising.
Right. So what this could look like, if you were to take my suggestion, for example, we identify these 3 sections, policy is directed to sit down, have a meeting, and revisit at least those 3. In the course of that meeting, if more comes up, what you bring back, if it substantively changes what was accepted in theory at a first reading, then what it would be is another first reading. It's another first reading of what is substantively a different document.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's what that might look like. I don't know what to call you. Salem, do you have any thoughts?
Salem works.
Yeah, it definitely works. I think your suggestion is an appropriate suggestion to accept the first reading with the understanding that it's going to go back to committee to look at those specific areas and then have the committee work through that. Depending on what they get, if it's significant change, it might need to be read again for the first time, or if it's just tightening up some language, it could be read for the second reading at the meeting when it's ready.
Right.
That's my suggestion.
I don't understand. I don't
so
quite.
what is it, again, does it cross the threshold between, are we just tweaking, and if you just tweak those 3 things and that's all and you feel comfortable with that, you bring it back, then what you would propose is a second reading, and that could be approved by the school committee.
In the second reading, so
Correct.
we don't need to necessarily.
If you're making substantive changes beyond just those minor revisions, then you would be, but you're saying that this is a product we've created, we really believe in, what you're bringing back is a new first reading.
Right.
So we would read that, we would all be seeing all this new information for the first time, this would kind of happen again, and either we're comfortable with it or there's a request for.
So what was the third hotspot? Sorry, the third hotspot. 3.57. What was the middle one?
Okay.
In the incident response
Section
plan?
5.
Got it.
Section 5.
Yep, thank you.
Specifically around the incident response plan, which is the most minor of the 3. It's just, if we put it in here and somebody, I don't even know what the hell that is. So somebody needs to I would just like to know what that is. Sam, well, how do you feel about this conversation? What are you thinking?
This all sounds good, and our next policy subcommittee meeting is August 14th.
So we would be then taking this up in September, which is fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, we can take it up. Don't we have another meeting in August?
August, yeah.
It's August 8th, I think. I'm looking for I believe it's August 8th. It's before your policy. Yeah.
So-
I got confused there.
That's okay.
Yes.
Can I ask-
August 12th. No. It's August 12th. You said the 14th?
14.
Okay.
Still done. Yeah.
So we could
There's no
take this
rush.
up on 9/9.
Yeah.
The question I have right now is procedurally what we would be doing is not accepting the first reading and not moving it forward and
Incorrect.
Incorrect, right.
Well, you can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
What I had proposed, and
Yep.
that may or may not pass muster, is that somebody would move to accept the first reading with 3 caveats, with the request for policy to revisit 3 specific sections and bring revisions to consideration at the next full
And
meeting.
Mr. Derby felt that that wasn't appropriate, correct?
I think that is, and I also think that maybe you should broaden the scope of the motion just a little bit in case there's other wordsmithing that could happen so that way you weren't restricted.
You're not
to
triggering
those.
a second first reading.
You're identifying those as hotspots, but you're not restricting the review to those specific areas. And
Yeah.
you could open it up to say, oh, well, we used this, approved, Chat GPT or GPT, whatever, engines.
So we say for revision in
endorsed.
particular, X section, X section, X section.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Yep.
Yeah, because there are some
Sure.
other extraneous like words.
Sure.
And
And as this conversation unfolds, likewise it will when you sit in policy.
Right.
Sam, does that jive with you?
Yes.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept the first reading, let me get the title, of the Generative Artificial Intelligence Policy for K through 12 teachers and students, with requests for revision specifically to sections 3.5, section 5, and section 7.
if I have a question now, does that change?
1 second, may I have a second?
Second.
Now we can do discussion.
So now that won't change your proposed.
Right, so
motion.
basically all we're saying is, we're very interested in this, it's not ready yet, bring it back to policy, and any of those of us who are not on policy could also attend that meeting, so as to not it's a little
To have
bit
to
more
do this
efficient.
again this
Exactly
way,
right.
yeah.
Sure. Even remotely or something, we could talk about that. So what this is saying is this can move forward, it's just not ready yet.
So the question that I had was, in the event that we couldn't reach a policy committee, a subcommittee quorum for the next meeting, does that mean that this is accepted and will move forward?
No, this doesn't move without being actively on the agenda. It will have to now move from policy back up to us to be reconsidered.
So if we don't, if the policy subcommittee doesn't put this forward again, it will not be
Correct.
reach the school committee
That's
for
correct.
another. Okay, thanks.
That's correct, yep. Any other questions or discussion before we vote on that motion on the floor?
Just a point of order, did you make the motion?
I
You
said
said
I
you'd
would
entertain.
entertain, and then I got a second from Eric. So can somebody make
So
the
moved.
motion? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was focusing so intently on Tim, who I know had something to say, and I allowed myself to
doing
get
great.
thrown off my game. All right, so Salem and Eric. So all those in favor, we're going to do a roll call. Tim, you can say aye, nay, or abstain.
Can you
want me to
restate,
come back to that?
the motion?
Sure. So the motion was to approve this generative AI policy
Yep.
with the caveat that they have to reconsider at least those 3 sections that we highlighted.
Okay.
So it can't be considered for a second reading until it goes to policy, is voted,
Right.
is revised,
Great.
voted, and brought back to us, and only then it's just being considered for a second
Yeah, I
reading.
apologize, I just.
No,
had a
don't, no,
hole in
no,
my
you're
brain.
literally learning on the job, you're
No,
building
we
the
learn
plane
on
as
the
you're
spot,
flying.
yeah.
Aye.
Thank you so much, Tim. Eric,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Salem,
Aye.
Sam,
I,
Laura Scott, aye. So that motion passes. Policy, this is your time to shout. We're first half of the year, y'all are bringing it home the second half of the year. God bless you. And can you tell me one more time when that meeting is? Because I'd like to try to attend, to iron my kinks out.
it's August 14th
August 14th, what
at
time?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. here at 50 Payson?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the next item on the agenda, oh geez, is another big talky one. Okay, guys. So, and everything else will be fast, but this is important. So the city and the public are largely aware, I think, that we've had a little shaking up in the ranks. Our mayor, who served for 7.5 years, stepped aside, And we have our interim mayor, who's also city council president, Salem Derby, who we're in such great hands, and we're so grateful for his service. It brought to the forefront some issues that we've discussed, that I've discussed with people a handful of times over the past 10 or 12 years of my service, and I know many of us have had these conversations in the past. And this is a conversation regarding municipal budgeting and particularly how that impacts school funding and who the voices of authority are. So we are a city of roughly 16,000. We have a home rule charter. There are some specifications in that home rule charter that state that the city council, essentially how this process works is the mayor is going to build a budget with recommendations from all department heads, including the school department. So we submit our requests to the mayor. The mayor compiles those requests, uses their judgment to then create a budget request, which may or may not reflect the amount that was requested by department heads. It could be higher or lower. It's never going to be higher. And then the mayor will then present that budget request to the city council. So the city council will then take that up. What they are allowed to do is review that, and they can make reductions to the school department funding or any other department. They can also eliminate line items from every department aside from the school department. But they are not allowed to increase any line item or any funding for any department. And so this is not falling at the feet of any particular mayor, but just the way that our charter is structured, it places the mayor as a member of our committee. In many towns, it even places the mayor as the chair of that school committee, while also balancing the needs of all the other multitude of departments and diverse needs that the city has. And so it can create kind of a conflict and a tension that, in my experience, and probably many of us can attest to this, don't always serve the best needs of our community, and certainly don't always serve the best needs of our students. It's my view, why I serve on this body, and maybe many of you would agree, that as go the schools, so goes the city. And that is not to say that we are in any contention with any other department. We work in complement with them. But if there are serious funding issues with the school department, that will have the fastest, most detrimental impact to the city at large. All this to say, there is an answer. There is an answer that has been difficult to address with a sitting mayor, particularly one who might be running for re-election or one who is sitting in the midst of a lengthy term and therefore, is pretty inured to any sort of political pressure. But when we look at our home rule charter, one of the things that we are guided by is the Massachusetts general law. So that sets guidelines for all municipalities in the Commonwealth and basically says, here's one guardrail, here's another. You're allowed to operate within this as you so choose. And if anything hinky comes up, it has to go to the legislature to be considered. MGL in chapter 44, section 32, basically lays out this template for how they say a city may operate its budget process. So it sets timelines, the mayor has to submit a budget in X number of days, and then it gets down to this interesting part about what a city council can and cannot do. And in Massachusetts general law, that kind of broad template of the Commonwealth, it states that given all the peculiarities and specific importance of school department funding, that the city council should be allowed, with the encouragement of the school committee. And so what that would refer to is a school committee would, for example, take a vote saying, we asked the mayor for $20 million this year. The mayor sent to you a budget for $17.5 million. If we don't get that additional $2.5 million, it will result in the following: reduction of force, harm to the district, harm to the community, etc. Up until today, there has been literally nothing the city council can do about that. They can hear me say that at public speak, but they have no power or authority to adjust that in any meaningful way. If we were to more closely align our charter to the law of the Commonwealth per chapter 44, section 32, it would give them the permission to say, well, this school committee is petitioning us. They have taken a vote and they are requesting that we increase their funding by X amount of dollars. That would then go to that city council for consideration. It would require a 2/3 vote of the city council, which is a higher threshold than most votes that they take, which are just a majority. And it would also be there's an additional set of kind of fiscal guidelines that say what that school department is asking for can't exceed, along with all the other spending that you're approving, it can't exceed the revenue that you collected for that year, right? Because unlike people we shall not name, cities, towns, and states have to balance their budget every year. So all of this is my long-winded backstory explanation to request my committee to consider taking a vote tonight in support of realigning our home rule charter. There are a number of processes by which that could follow. Tonight is the first step where we test the waters and see if the committee is in agreement that this would be a wise choice for the city. So we could take a vote on that tonight after we discuss it. If that were to happen, if that were to pass with the support of this committee, I would then go to City Council and speak to them and explain all of this malarkey that I just explained to you and ask for their support in following one of the avenues available to us to make this change to how we operate city finance in Easthampton. So with that, we're going to start with Tim, who I'm sure myriad questions. Let's go.
Well, the first is that was a great explanation about what we would be realigning to. Can you explain in the same, not necessarily in the same, but can you explain in near the same way where we're aligned now, how that works?
So what it says now is that the mayor gets final word. The mayor presents their budget to the city council. The city council is only allowed to make reductions, no increases, period, full stop.
Yeah.
And let's say there's an avenue where, okay, that happens, but we say, all right, we didn't quite get the funding we need, we recoup for a couple of months. Well, maybe we could ask, we needed this extra 1.5 million, but maybe we could just ask for an appropriation of $500,000. Well, no, that's not an option either, because every appropriation has to pass first with the approval of the mayor to even be considered by the city council. So it leaves us with, if any mayor, and this is not to call anyone out specifically, this is just a flaw that I have identified that I perceive as a flaw in the charter and the way that we handle our money. There is no recourse. It is one person alone, and that's how it functions today.
When the appropriation that you said that it just has, sorry about that, has to pass the mayor first.
Right.
And is that under just the assumption that the mayor has already said what the mayor said, and that's what the budget is, or are they going to entertain an appropriation?
Right, so appropriations are typically meant to be treated as, there is an unforeseen expense that a department was not budgeted for. It can be used in myriad ways, but that is what it is intended for. And what it has to do with here is just that it's pretty common in the state of Massachusetts for these home rule charters that were developed at a certain point in time when politics felt a certain kind of way, that these charters are developed and are known as strong mayoral charters. So it gives an extremely high amount of power, which you can believe in, support, or not. I'm here to pitch the case that maybe you need a little bit more of a check. What I'm asking for, if this were to be implemented, means you have to have a majority of the school committee to agree on which the mayor is a voting member.
No, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
I'm clear on what you're asking. I just was asking.
I'm pitching to the public at the same time.
Oh, yeah, sorry. But, I was just asking if the appropriation function is already presumed dead because the mayor has already made their say by proposing the budget. Or are we assuming that the appropriation function is going to be and would be entertained by the mayor? And
so, it's always a possibility. I'm just trying to explain that the budget is kind of your one bite at the apple.
Yeah.
Because if you have a disagreement with the mayor's and only the mayor, everyone else, you could have a unanimous agreement among the entire school committee, all of the leadership team, and the entire city council could all say they really need this extra whatever dollar figure it is. It doesn't matter with the way our charter is currently structured.
Just so you know, I completely support
I am using
your idea.
to explain this to the world.
Right on.
Thank you for that.
Can I have one piece to that,
sure.
which is that, I don't know if I would go straight to, we can assume that, but we have, in my tenure on school committee, we have experienced not having our requested appropriation signed and put through.
Sure, and I think that it's a fair assumption that you're working 80-20,
Also,
or 90-10.
had one that went straight through, so,
Yeah.
This is not about any particular mayor. This is not about any forecasting about who may sit in the seat in the future. It is what I perceive to be a flaw in the charter and I can identify what I believe is a cure for that flaw.
And my observation is that this is a functional way to increase the democratic application of what we're doing.
I agree.
You know?
You're going to need a majority of the school committee and 2/3 of the city council. And it is still going to have to fall within what they have available to spend in any given year.
Right. And, yeah, do it. I love it. Sorry, thanks.
Eric, any questions?
I don't think I can since it's directly attached to finance. Is that?
I think you could, because it is not about payroll authorization, but this is about an adoption to the charter about who has the authority to authorize spending. So it is not about any particular amount or any authorization, but if you're concerned, Eric's wife works
my
in the
wife
district,
works in the
so we
school,
want to be
so
very careful
I usually
about
I can't touch
avoiding
anything that has
conflicts
to
of
do with
interest.
finances.
So if you're more comfortable, you can abstain, and I think that's fine. Go ahead, Tim.
Right, but you can ask questions.
Sure.
So if you have
Yeah, no, I mean, I have no, the clarity of it makes total sense.
No questions. Thank you for bringing it up. And
Sam?
No, I am 100% in favor of this, so thank you for bringing it up.
I've just been waiting. I knew my day would come. Salem?
Hey, you want to give the city council more power? I happen
You
to
must
not
be-
only
you're
be
really- but you're both.
a school committee member at this point, and
Right.
a mayor at this point, but I'm also a city councilor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a smart move, because you never know who's going to be sitting in the corner office. I don't know what the logistics of me voting for this are, as all three of those are roles that I have. But I am in support of it. So I might abstain, but I am in support of it, just so I don't get anybody in trouble. And
Sure.
you know. But
And again, this is not a binding vote. This is not even a resolution. This is just a request to this. This allows me to go to the city council and say, this is not just me. This is some majority of the school committee. It doesn't even require a vote, really. We can just have this discussion and kind of say straw poll wise, what is your personal feeling? That, you know, none of this is binding. This is just me. This allows me to go to the city council as more than just a citizen and say, I've discussed this with the school committee in my tenure as chair. And, you know, we support this idea. We'd like to consider it, you to consider it more with us.
I prefer a vote.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this thing. All right. I would entertain a motion to voice public support for the city of Easthampton to more closely align its budgetary process with MGL Chapter 44, Section 32. So I'm looking for someone to state so moved.
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, we're gonna wait.
too late.
Can I get a second?
You can have it.
We're just gonna say Sam seconded.
Yeah.
Sam, you second?
Oh, sorry. Second, yes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
If there's going to be some abstains, do you want a roll call?
Sure. Tim?
Tim St. John, aye.
Eric?
Abstain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megan?
Yes.
Laura Scott, yes. Sam?
Aye.
I should probably abstain just in
Yep.
case.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And again, this isn't a binding, this is just all
Fun
the I's and
nuances.
T's.
Thank
you very much for letting me do this. I appreciate
for
you
looking
giving me
into
the
it.
time and what was already a bit of a lengthy meeting and a lengthy discussion. Moving on. So I will present that at their next meeting, which escapes me. What's the next?
August 9th, maybe?
Yeah, somewhere right around there.
Is it 8th? Let me see.
I think it's the 8th because I think we're the, I don't even know. No,
Or
August.
September 9th.
right. Anyway, I'll be presenting the
6th, August
request.
6th.
Okay.
That's what it says on my calendar, so.
Perfect, I'll be there. And I'll just arrange with you, because it feels kind of inappropriate for public speak, so just what, a statement from fellow governing body? Great.
Communications from
There it
elected
is.
boards and officials.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna move on to action items.
That's me.
It is.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the 6/10/2025 regular and executive session minutes. Those are in the packet.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
I have to write that down.
That was Salem abstaining.
I wasn't there.
It makes perfect sense. I'm just also doing the minutes.
Can you sign this for Sue later?
Yes, I can.
Before I forgot to ask you already. Okay, go ahead.
I have a motion to approve the school payroll dated 6/12/2025 in the amount of $670,504.53.
Great, can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Motion
I'm
to,
gonna pause you. So Sam, can you second all of these because Megan's
That'd be
taking
great.
notes for Sue tonight, so she doesn't have to stop between every, okay, great, thank you. Go ahead, Megan.
okay, motion to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated 6/12/2025 in the amount of $547,287.78.
Second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Eric.
Motion to approve the school lump sum payroll dated 6/26/2025 in the amount of $658,542.90.
Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Eric.
Motion to approve the school payroll dated 6/26/2025 in the amount of $641,597.80.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor?
Right?
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Eric.
Motion to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated 6/26/2025 in the amount of $520,933.58.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor?
Right?
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Eric.
Motion to approve the school payroll dated 7/10/2025 in the amount of $387,604.57.
A second?
Second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Eric.
Motion to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated 6/30/2025 in the amount of $454,326.69.
A second?
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Make your notes reflect that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right?
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, folks, our next meeting dates, you've heard us throw out a lot of meeting dates. Our next regular session school committee meeting date is August 12th, and then we'll be meeting again September 9th, October 7th, October 21st, November 18th, and our final meeting of this school committee will be December 9th. So I will
For
enter.
the election.
That's okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you so much. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm all pat at that.
Good night, Easthampton.